Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in. As always, I appreciate that. Playing some more Borderlands 3. I recently posted my review, and that got me thinking about creativity in general, but more specifically creativity in this series of games. I mean, when Borderlands 1 came out, it was a breath of fresh air in the first-person shooter genre, basically. It introduced a limitless number of guns and customization and lots of skill trees and all that, sort of deep RPG elements it added to the first-person shooter genre. Also, the looting in this game was just fantastic. As I said, all these guns that you could find in the world that were, I think the guns were, and still are, sort of randomly generated. I'm not sure how they do this. It's really sort of magic, I have to say. You know, that Randy Pitchford, the CEO of Gearbox, you know, he's a guy who's into magic, and, you know, this is a trick I'm still astonished about. You know, how is it possible that this game can have this many guns, you know, so many variables, so many different stats and all that? There has to be some kind of calculation going on in the background, but that is something that's been around since the first game, and now we've seen a sequel, we've seen a pre-sequel, and now we're playing Borderlands 3, and you just have to admit that the game has not changed or evolved even in the last couple of years, which makes me wonder what is going on here. Now, first of all, the blueprint of this game is just so strong that I think that there hasn't, you know, you don't have to change any of it, basically. Sure, you can update the graphics and the production values in general, but how can you expand on what is already quite a very good blueprint? And you could also argue that the success of Borderlands is also it's a good thing, of course, for the company, but it's also like a victim of its own success in a way. By that I mean that since Borderlands is so popular, people expect them to release more games in the series, and they do that, and they tried to give the players what they want, which is pretty much the same thing, and that also puts a brake on any creativity that there might be around in the studio, I think. Because why would you change something if it's not broken, or why fix something when it's not broken? And this really got me thinking, where should this series go to next? Are we going to see another? Sure, we're going to see another Borderlands 4 or something like that, or a little spin-off again, but is it going to be something different? I mean, there are series of games that do try to evolve in a way. Like, you know, if you look at Rage, for instance, I make this comparison in my review of Borderlands 3. Rage was somewhat similar game as, well, similar look and feel as Borderlands when it came out, the first Rage. But there's quite a leap in technology with Rage 2. I mean, again, the game had a lot of problems, Rage 2, but what it did offer is expand on that first-person shooting and make it more fast-paced and kinetic, and add all these powers to the mix. And you can tell that its software, for all its faults, they do try to incorporate their new gameplay elements. You know, the stuff that was quite successful in the sort of the reboot of Doom. You can tell that they've used that sort of fast-paced running and gunning in Rage 2, but Gearbox seems to be stuck in the same kind of looter shooter that has always been Borderlands, basically. So I'm really interested to see what will come next for Gearbox. Are they going to continue with releasing a new game after this one, or are they going to add new elements to that? Are they going the persistent universe route that Fallout 76 is unsuccessfully taking so far, much like the other looter shooters like the Division and Destiny? Is it going that way, or is it going to stick to their guns basically as it is right now? Pun intended, of course. So I'm really interested to see where the franchise is going next. I do believe that they could try for something new, or expand on the universe with a new kind of game, or even go back to the drawing board, not to deviate too much of the blueprint, but try and add something new. And it's difficult to actually pinpoint what that should be. I'm not a game developer or designer, of course, so I'm just speculating here. But you also see it with Bethesda. Bethesda is actually trying something new. They've tried something new with Fallout 4, with adding the whole building mechanic and create your own base sort of thing, as well as the persistent universe aspect of the game. So yeah, has Borderlands run out of steam? Basically, that's, again, pun intended, because, Borderlands isn't available. Borderlands 3, it is not available on Steam yet, and it was released first on the Epic Store. But, it begs the question, where can this franchise go? Again, I think, as I said in my review, there are quite a few points where Gearbox can really make the game better. They can make a better villain. The villains in Borderlands 3 are just boring. They could write a better story. They could put more thought into questing. Skip the fetch quest stuff, and give us meaningful things to do in this world. Also, make it so that you actually see things changing in the world because of your actions. This game and the games before it are mindless grinds, and it's the nature of it. It's the nature of the looter shooter. It's looting and shooting, but nothing in the world really changes because of that. And there's a point in the game where most players will sort of burn out on it. It will come after maybe 5 hours, maybe 10 hours, maybe 20. But Borderlands 3 is around 30 or 40 hours to complete if you're skipping a lot of stuff. And there's going to be that moment where you will consider playing something else. There's lots of games coming out, and you'll probably keep Borderlands on your hard disk or lying around to play on your console, but ultimately there's going to be that point of saturation where you had enough for now and stop playing it, maybe to pick it up later, after a couple of months or something like that. And that might be a good idea, because a lot of people are experiencing technical difficulties and problems with the game. But even so, it's a game that will burn you out at some point. And I think, ranting or sort of rambling, I'd say, about this game and the series as I go, I think the game should have meaningful consequences, choices and consequences. I mean, sure, it has picked up a lot of the RPG elements, the deep customization, the skill trees and that sort of thing. But I like to have meaningful quests. I like to have choices and consequences. Maybe dialogue with with the NPCs and whatnot. That's sorely missing, I think, in this particular game. If Gearbox can steer this game more into the direction of an actual RPG and keep the good things about it, the looting, the shooting, it's fine. Hopefully they can make it a little bit more exciting, but stick to that, but expand on the story, on meaningful immersion, on choices and consequences. That stuff I like, and I think that would mean that people get less burned out by it because of all the sort of mediocre side stuff that is just very repetitive and just not memorable at all. I'd rather do fewer quests that have you something actually to do and have some impact on the game than do all these side things that are just there for filler, basically. Well, that's me rambling. That's how I think right now after playing so many hours and doing the review. Again, the conclusion is still that I very much like this game. Don't get me wrong, but there are things that should be fixed, or they could enhance, or they could add to the game. So here's hoping Borderlands 4, it's surely coming in due time, somewhere in the future, is going to be somewhat of a different beast than the previous games. That's me hoping that. So thank you guys for watching and listening to my ramblings, and see you next time.